The Business of Art, brought to you by the Video Department. Actually, I've been thinking about kind of changing the intro and not saying like, welcome to the business of art. I've been thinking about doing more of like a soft intro.
Hey, how's it going? Good afternoon.
Or like even like just
starting?
Yeah, just getting into the conversation.
I'm fine with that.
I think this might actually be the intro, is this conversation right here.
That's cool. Let's go.
Steffanie Atkins, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
If you heard that sound in the background, it was Bartlett making his second appearance on the pod. Good job, boy. You're a dog person, right?
Very much so.
How many dogs do you have?
I have 3.
And what are their names?
I have Old Man Jones, and then I have Taco and Bell.
Old Man Jones.
Yeah, he's old.
And Jones,
obviously.
like Jones, when he was young, he was Jones.
He was just Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We call Bartlett Bubba Jones.
Oh, that's
just
funny.
He kind of looks like a Bubba Jones.
I don't know. Jones came with the boyfriend, so he was not. I didn't have any part in naming him. Taco and Bella, I named both of them
for obvious reasons. I was actually thinking about tacos tonight. I think that's the move, but not Taco Bell. I would.
No, I don't see it. And here's the thing: I don't even really eat Taco Bell that often.
Yeah,
but
you can't. One cannot.
No, absolutely not.
One cannot.
But I do have a taco tattoo.
You do?
Yeah. Look.
Oh yeah.
I got a taco in my ditch. By a guy that was on Ink Master.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
In Richmond?
In Richmond at the Tattoo Festival a couple of years ago, pre-COVID. It's Big Daddy Jazz.
So he's not a Richmonder.
No. He was on the TV show.
No.
And I didn't realize who he was. And I sat down. Well, I walked up to his table and he didn't have anybody sitting there. And I said, I want a taco in my ditch. And he laughed at me and he said, sit down. And I said, okay. It took 20 minutes. And so I've bought many a tattoo in my day. And my anticipation of what the cost was about half of what the actual cost was. And I was like, who are you? And he was like, and he pointed at his big poster with the I don't even remember the name of that tattoo show. Ink Masters or whatever.
Something like that.
He was on
yeah.
Ink Masters. Whatever.
Was that the one that Kat, whatever her name is, that woman?
No,
hosted?
I think she did a different show.
Yeah.
This was, no, I can't even remember. Dave Navarro.
Oh, yeah.
I think hosted that one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Jane's Addiction guy.
And briefly in the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yes, yeah. And so he was the host of that show. But anyways, so I spent way too much money on the taco in my ditch.
How many tattoos do you have? Do you have any idea?
I say around 20.
Mm-hmm.
That seems about right.
How old were you when you got your first one?
On my 18th birthday.
Where? Not in your body. What tattoo parlor?
Enigma.
Okay.
And I think they still exist on Broad Street downtown. I remember going there and sitting there and waiting for them to open up on my 18th birthday. And I got a butterfly tramp stamp.
Amazing.
Yeah. That was before 2000. So
there must be a bunch of tattoo shops in Richmond that must just own their building, because like I just see these old tattoo shops that are just random.
Yeah, they've been there for forever.
Yeah. Because they can't be doing that much business.
I don't think so.
Certainly,
no.
like a place like River City Tattoo, because of its location and everything. I'm sure.
Well, they are like franchise. There's like a bunch of those guys around, like River City. There's not like outside of Richmond, but there's a bunch of River City locations.
Oh,
in
okay,
Richmond.
well, that makes sense.
But yeah, I don't know. And Enigma's still there. I don't go there. I honestly haven't gotten a tattoo since before COVID.
I've always had dreams of doing a documentary about tattoos.
Yeah.
Specifically kind of focused on Richmond, because it's one of the most heavily tattooed cities in the country.
For real, yeah.
And part of the challenge of the way that I would want to do the documentary is exploring the stigma. And a lot of people don't want to do that. A lot of people who have tattoos don't want to do that.
I wonder why that is.
Yeah.
I got into radio because I got my degree in broadcast journalism, and I got into radio because I knew I would never be able to wear short sleeves on television. And I hope one day that changes, because it's 2024. Most people have tattoos.
I think it's already changed.
I don't think I have come across anyone in probably the last 10 years of my life that's been like, oh, I don't want to work with you because you have tattoos. That's
was
stupid.
that me? That just dinged?
I think that it dinged over that way.
Oh, man, what a bummer. All right, well, if that keeps happening, I'll do something.
Okay.
Well, I don't want to jump ahead to your radio days, because I want to start with where you grew up.
Here,
I know.
Hanover County.
Yeah.
I went to Atlee.
Atlee. What was your elementary, middle?
And I started at Battlefield Elementary School in Mechanicsville, and then we moved, and then I went to Rural Point from 2nd grade on.
Mr. Holiday?
Fun fact, I went to school with Jason Mraz. He's in one of my yearbooks.
At Rural Point? Mm-hmm. Okay.
I drew little hearts around him when I was in like 2nd
You knew.
grade. Look, just don't
knew
touch
then.
me. But it was more grades. Now, this was a long time ago, so I don't really recall. But it was more than just like kindergarten through 5th grade. It was like more grades.
Really?
Yeah.
You're not older than me. You're like 1 year older than me.
I don't know.
Well, how many grades was it?
I don't remember, but I remember
you're
my
making this
yearbook
up.
having like a bunch, because Jason Mraz is older than me. Like, we would not have been in the same class.
What grade were you in when he was in your yearbook?
2nd grade.
Well, he could have been in like 5th.
I don't think so. I want to say it was like 6th or 7th, because there was no Chickahominy in Atlee then.
That's interesting. I wish we had like a producer here to like look stuff up
I know,
for us.
Right? Where's your guy?
I know.
We
I
need a guy.
freaking do everything myself, literally.
Maybe put like a little box here to clarify.
I would like to get to
I
that
will
point.
find the picture and I will send it to you,
Okay.
and we can inset
Yeah.
Jason Mraz with the little hearts around him.
If you do that, I will for sure clip this and make that part of.
I will find it.
What was the guy's name who was in our group? The IT guy,
Cody?
Cody.
Yeah.
That place where he worked out of, they had a sweet podcast studio.
Oh, yeah?
That had like monitors and stuff like that. So if you were one of the guests, you could like look in a monitor, and it had like a station set up where they could have if you ever watch or listen to Joe Rogan, you could have a Jamie.
Oh, fun.
To be there. Yeah. So one day we'll get there. This is you're going to be episode either 13 or 14. So
That's exciting.
maybe by like episode 50, we'll have a
But
Jamie.
like 13 episodes, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I had a podcast once, and I think I did 10, and then that was it.
Okay.
And then I gave up.
Nice. I've already crossed the threshold.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's been good, and many more to come, hopefully. So, did you do anything creative when you were growing up?
Yeah, all I did was like arts and stuff. I took crafts class in high school. I might have smoked a lot of weed in high school also. So I did a lot of floriculture and crafts and photography and all of that in high school. And then I decided to be a cop, and then everything changed after that. But I loved inventing and creating things. I found my love for radio when I was a kid, and I never really thought that I could do that. Like, you see people like do it, and you're like, oh, I don't even know the path to get there, right? So but I would like make like radio shows like with my like little boom box, and like,
Oh, cool. Yeah.
and it would be like back-to-back songs of the same artist, because I had like a tape player, CD player, like
NSYNC and then NSYNC.
yeah, like you couldn't just like do like now where you have like a different, what I mean, technology.
yeah.
So
That's so funny.
yeah, I did that a lot when I was a kid, but I was always just into the arts and into just being creative and thinking outside of the box.
Do you remember the point where you realized you could do a career in it?
In radio? Mm-hmm. No. I think even up until the last day of being in radio, I didn't think I would ever make a career at radio. It is... radio's like a bad boyfriend, right? So it's like every day you live in fear that you're gonna lose your job and that you're never gonna make it. It is very stressful, but it was bless you. It was bless you again.
I blame the dog.
But it was some of the best years of my life. But I remember walking in. So I started as an intern when I went to college years later. So I did life backwards. I did kids, then marriage, then college. So
I don't think I've ever heard that.
but it worked. Yeah. It's working now. So I went back to college when my kids were little, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. And so eventually I got into the journalism track, and I actually have 2 degrees, one in broadcast and one in print. Well, obviously print pretty dead, so I don't
Broadcasting is not far behind.
it's not
far behind.
But in broadcast, they teach you how to be on television. Like, they teach you how there's no radio. You have like one day where you train on a board. And the rest of it is like, here's how to be on TV. And I'm like, look at me. I am not going to be on the NBC 12. Like, they're not. And plus, I'm 10 years older than all the rest of the people. I graduated with Candace Smith, right? She's been on NBC 12 since we graduated. She is phenomenal, but I am a decade older than her, if not more. So I decided to get an internship it was Clear Channel at the time. And I remember I met Jackson Scott from Q94. He was the first person that I ever met at the station. And I walked in and I was like, this is just the coolest. And I didn't think I was going to get the internship. I'm like, I imagine like thousands of people apply for this. And he was like, no. And once I got in, I was like, oh, now I get it. Like, now I get it. But it's fun. Like, it was a lot of fun. And I just worked my way up and around the building, different markets, different buildings, and really enjoyed it. But COVID ruined it for me.
Explain.
I was bored. So I had finally gotten back to Richmond. So I worked in the Richmond market for Clear Channel, and then I went to iHeart, and then to Intercom, and now it's Odyssey. I was laid off during the Intercom transition, and I went up and worked in Fredericksburg at Alpha Media, and that's when I began my on-air career, because I'd been doing a lot of promotion stuff. I love throwing events and things like that, and that was like my bread and butter when I was in radio. And then when I went up to Fredericksburg, they needed some on-air talent. We created a fake name for me because most radio stuff is not real. And
what was your fake name?
Hunter. So we went through all of the barrage of like different names. My name has too many syllables, so it doesn't read well on air. And so then they were like, how about your kids' names? How about this? How about that? And I'm like, Hunter. And they're like, it's perfect. We don't know what you are. And I'm like, I love that. It's like androgynous and like perfect for like that top 40 vibe or whatever that we were going for. So I worked up there for a couple of years, came down here, and Melissa Chase actually put me on Classic Rock 96.5 the weekend that everything shut down for COVID. My first on-air shift was that Saturday, March 14th.
Yeah.
And I stayed and I did weekends and filling in throughout the week when needed for a good long while down here in Richmond, for almost a year. And then I was bored though. Like, there was nothing else to do. We could tell people to wash your hands 9,000 times, but when there's no concerts, there's no shows, there's no events, there's no nothing. And when you're doing a classic rock, it's not like those guys aren't on TikTok, you know, like there's not a lot. They're not giving us content to talk about, other than dying. And that's a shame to say, but there's really, like, on a classic rock station, there wasn't a ton to talk about. And so I would have loved to have stayed on air, but when I left to start the business, I left it all. And my podcast, left my podcast there too.
What was your podcast?
It's called At Home with Hunter.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked home services, which is, my life has come full circle.
I think that the reason the pod didn't work out is because you weren't using your real name.
You think?
No.
I don't think so either. It was a really great podcast, I thought, and I had some listeners, but I don't own the rights to any of that stuff because I did it off the radio station.
When I was in the Norfolk area, when I was living down there, I left my job and was looking for a new job, and the local news station was hiring. So I went down and I met with like the director, like the guy who was calling the live broadcasts. Yeah. Really nice guy. And he let me, like, when I came in for the interview, I basically sat in on an episode. Like, that's kind of what I did. And like sat in and watched in the booth. It was awesome. I really loved that whole energy and the calling the show. And then we like sat down afterwards, and like I told him a little bit about my background and told him like what I was making at my last job, which was not like a ton. But when I told him that, he was like, "Oh, you don't want this job." Like, he straight up told me. He was like, "I think you would be great, but I don't think you want this job."
I remember keep in mind, I was in my 30s, my early 30s, because I graduated from college when I was 30. I had just turned 31. I was excited when I got a raise to $8.25. But the fringe benefits were unreal. The amount of artists that I got to meet, the bands, the shows I got to go to, the experiences, one of a kind experiences. I met artists who are now major acts when they were like little baby artists and they had like no people showing up at the National for them. And now they're selling out amphitheaters. Like, it's wild, but radio's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
And I think COVID was like kind of the final nail in the coffin. There are some good stations that are still doing good quality work and supporting their community, but at this point, it's all just big corporate conglomeration.
Right, especially radio. Yeah, it seems like that is really what
it's lost the local. You got one jock track in multiple different markets. It's hard to stay relatable to your clients and to your community when you're not in your community.
Delilah.
Yeah, she's amazing.
But it's like the Delilah syndrome. It's like all of radio has become
everybody
Delilah
wants
now.
to be syndicated. That's the only way to make money in radio. Even Elliot in the Morning, he's syndicated now. Not just in Richmond and DC. He's in New York and somewhere.
Good for him.
I don't really pay that much. I mean, I listen to him, but I don't.
Right.
I forgot St. Louis, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the path of radio and its history as a business, I think, is a future indicator of what's going to happen to broadcast television for sure. And I mean, obviously, so what are the things that killed radio? Obviously, there's like Napster and like the digital downloading of music.
I don't even think that was it. I think money killed radio. Once you start putting people in charge of radio that have never worked the front lines of a radio station, that don't know what it's like to reach the community, you've lost all sight of that. You've got these big corporations spending all this money for these big festivals and all of these things, but they've got staff that are working 6 jobs instead of hiring 6 people. You know, it's from the top down, in my opinion. That's because when I first started, like, promotions, we had a budget, we had vehicles, we could go do events, we were showing up at places, we were doing things, we were a part of the community. Slowly but surely, they take away the budget for promotions, they take away the vehicles, there's no remotes anymore, you're not meeting jocks at events anymore. It's not that live and local feel anymore. There are some stations, like I said, so Melissa Chase, I mentioned her earlier. She was, if you are from Richmond, she was a big part of Richmond radio. My childhood, I say my childhood, she's not much older than me, but from the time I was a teenager up, she's now down in Houston, and they just had that hurricane that came through. They stayed live on air for like 24/7, answering questions, telling people where to get ice, how to report their power outages, how to get around traffic, where to avoid, and those kinds of things. And they made an impact. And that is what radio has lost. Because if you can't monetize it, radio doesn't want to do it anymore. And that is a perfect example of why I think radio is still important. Because if I don't have access to my TV, I always have access to radio. It's free. I can get it anywhere.
Why do you think that you said Houston? Mm-hmm. Why do you think it's working there?
They have the budget.
But how do they have a budget?
It's a bigger market. So the bigger your market is, the more money they're going to spend on you. And generally those bigger markets like DC, LA, Vegas even, Chicago, Charlotte, most of those still have live jocks like all day long, every day. But it's the smaller markets that they've just started pulling people out of. And not saying that it's not worth it, but it sucks when you're in Richmond's market, 50, mid 50s, 54, 55, something like that. So it's not like we're like market 200 or anything, but it's just not the same. It's just not the same. And I talk to a lot of people. I'm still friends with obviously a lot of people in the industry, and they're just like, there's no budget. We can't do anything. Like, we have nothing. And it's like, that's the part that made radio fun, was going and doing stuff and having like, intimate experiences with artists and your listeners and building those relationships. And I don't know. That was the fun part.
Well, so then, and we refer to it as the dark times. We don't say the C word. So how much did the dark times play into that? Or was it already over before then?
A lot, because once that kind of happened, it kind of solidified the end of the promotions department.
I don't think that most people would associate the success of radio being tied to events so much. But I hear what you're saying. It makes sense to me hearing you say it now, but I don't think it's like a logical thing that people would think of immediately.
No, but anytime you see, or anytime there's a contest, anytime you see the station out and about, that's all run through the promotions department. And if there's no promotions department, there's no festivals, there's no concerts, there's no, like, all those things.
So in a way, you're only as good as your promotions department in terms of your access to the community. But then your promotions
one would
department...
say that, but I was a promotions director for many years and I did not feel appreciated.
Well, and exactly, your promotions department can only be as good as the budget, or can, like, to a certain degree.
And that then the budget depends on if sales is meeting their numbers. Like, it's just a whole, and a lot of times it's a whole big circle jerk, really. But it's once we got away from people, but I think that this is, like, not just a radio problem. I think it's
it's a theater problem for
everywhere problem. People are so disconnected from.
It's not everywhere, and that's what's interesting, because certain live events are doing better than ever. So sports. This
is true.
Wrestling, which I don't consider in the same category as sports. That's more entertainment. But live, like WWE is doing better than ever.
Yeah.
And I think live music is doing as good as it was before. Certainly, certain artists are doing better than ever. # Taylor Swift. But
I want to be like her when I grow up.
But honestly, you should just stick to what you're doing.
Just to be able to, she comes into a city and makes a difference. And I like that. Like, she, I hear that she donates to, like, the food pantries and, like, all these things, which are, like, a lot of artists, they come into a city and they're like, you get my tourism dollars, the end. But she's like, no, here's extra. Well, like, I can appreciate that.
It's a tax write-off.
Look, I'm a business owner. I get it. I get it.
But no, you could have worse role models. That is for sure.
This is true.
She is definitely, for the most part, a positive role model. Way off topic, though. What were we talking about before Taylor Swift? We're talking about live performance.
Yeah.
And I think, I may have said this on the pod before, but I think that it's going to come back, and I think it's going to come back in full force, and here's why. This is just an anecdote, but Ashton Kutcher, I don't know if you've seen this viral video going around, but he's sort of on the forefront of technology and film. And he mentioned that in 2 to 3 years with AI, you're going to be able to basically make your own movie that you can just watch. And you can be like, I want to see Ryan Reynolds and Anne Hathaway in a horror movie about such and such and such and such. And 2 hours later, it's going to process and you're going to be able to watch it. And part of the what I glean from that is that people are going to be bored with what is going on their screen, and like their phone at some point that's going to become a bore too. And so everything's cyclical. It's going to come back around to people want to be connected to people want to see live events, people want to see one of a kind things.
I hope so, because that is fun. Like, that is living life. I had surgery a couple months ago and I got stuck on the couch watching television, and after like 2 weeks I'm like, there's nothing else to watch. Like, there's nothing else. I'm so bored. So bored.
Yeah.
So I get that.
That's
I wanted to leave the house so bad.
And there's literally anything you want to watch basically available, but that's not the point. The point is that it's like, after a while, it's like, this is stupid.
I don't want to sit here and just watch this television anymore. I want to go experience life.
I just hope that the younger generation, because it's kind of up to them, because we're millennials, and then there's Gen Z, and then there's whatever is below Gen Z. I can't remember what they're called.
X?
No, X is above us.
Oh, X is above Gen Y?
We're technically Gen Y. The only reason I know there is no Gen Y where it's the millennials, because it goes Gen X, millennials, Gen Z. Here's the reason I know this. Gordon Ramsay's show MasterChef.
Oh, I love that show.
Their current season is the Battle of the Generations. So it's Gen Z, millennial, Gen X and boomers?
So I think my kids are they're not Gen Z, I don't think.
Your oldest might be. How old's your youngest?
He'll be 15 next month.
I bet they're like split.
Possibly.
Yeah. But yeah, they might
I
be
don't
both
know.
of the next generation.
It's very, so
It's up to them though.
my youngest, if it was up to him, we'd live in a video game.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't have a ton of faith there. My oldest though, she likes to be out and about and do stuff, and they go to shows and go skateboarding, and I don't know. Her boyfriend does a lot of adventurous things.
I think the biggest counterpoint to my point about live performance coming back is video games. Because video games are only going to get better, and you can feel like you're doing something.
Yeah. Especially when they finally release Grand Theft Auto.
Oh my God.
I've been waiting for that for like 20 years.
I know. I'm not even a GTA fan, but I am annoyed.
Me neither.
Like,
but
I
it's
wanna
the
play
one
it.
game that I enjoy playing
Yeah.
a lot, and it makes me giggle so hard because I don't play the game properly. I don't know anybody that actually does, but I enjoy just fucking around, you know? And I'm so excited for that game to come
Yeah.
back.
Vice
but-
City introduced me to so many 80s songs that I didn't know.
Right? It's no, the game is solid. But no, I think video games are, it's crazy. My son spends a lot of time now. He creates video games, so he is way smarter than I ever probably will be, and does lots of technology things, and he creates his own video games. So it's, I don't know if that's different, but I feel like because he's using his brain, it's not as just killing people. I don't know.
Right. It's, yeah. Killing people in video games.
Right.
Let's be clear about that.
Correct.
In case you're just tuning in.
No.
All right, so let's transition then to Autumn Hunter. How in the heck do you go from being a radio personality to being a handywoman woodworker?
Award-winning handywoman and woodworker.
We'll
might
edit
I
that.
add. My dad is I don't know, like I look up to my dad, and I kind of always have. He's always been a really hard worker. My dad has always been in construction, and I've always thought building things was cool. Like seeing something go from being ugly to pretty is cool, and it's fun. And I've always done like little projects, like nothing ever like build a house or anything, but nothing super insane. And then in 2019, thank God, I bought a house. And then when COVID hit, you know, I'm bored. There's not much to do by way of work for the radio station because nothing was happening. Although it's been enough years now. I was supposed to be doing things for the radio station. I was not. I was building my business during that time. And I started working on my own house, started posting pictures on social media. A friend of mine who's also a real estate agent hired me to do some work at her house. Another friend hired me to do some stuff.
What kind of stuff?
So my first like official job, was that my first? Maybe it was my second. I think my first official job was fixing trim in a friend's apartment. And I remember when I first started, I had a Honda CRV that I would take around, and I would keep my ladder and my saws and everything in it. And it was so stupid. My daughter drives that car now because it would not fit any of my tools in it anymore. And then the second job I did patio. I did a shiplap ceiling on a patio and replaced some lights. And I don't know, I just fell in love with like watching things go from being ugly to being pretty. And then Kristen Dalkey sat me down one day. I had a lunch with her, and I told her that these were things I was doing on the side, like for fun. Like I'm building little tables and like little things. And
For those who don't know, who's Kristen Dalkey? How did you know her? What did she do?
so I met her through networking. She at the time
You were already in B&I for radio.
I was already in B&I for radio. And at the time, Kristen was in B&I she owned an interior design business. And I had lunch with her because I wanted to work with her to learn and to make things beautiful, because that's kind of where my when I first started it, it was just me. So I knew that I could only do but so many things, but I knew how to use saws. I knew how to paint things. Like I knew how to make things pretty. And so I started working with her a little bit, and then she was like, I have a contractor that's coming in to B&I, and they may want to apply. And if they do, you're not going to be able to get any business. Like you're going to have to still like stay in the radio seat or find a different group. And she was like, you shit or get off the pot. And I was like, and this was within months of starting, like even as a thought. And at that point I already had several people like reaching out. Julie Hill, another person that reached out about doing some work. She used to be a VP at a bank. Like, and I'm like, this is wild. Like people believe in me. And so I instead of getting off the pot, I shit and switched my seat in BNI, and the rest has been absolutely insane. So, I switched my seat and took over the handywoman seat. I'm a Class B contractor now, but
You invented the handywoman seat.
I invented the handywoman seat. It was, I guess, a handyman seat, but no, handywoman seat.
And for listeners who don't know, in BNI, which is Business Networking International, is that right?
I think so.
You can only, there's different chapters, and in a chapter, there can only be one realtor. There can only be one handy person, one electrician, and so on and so forth. And so that's what Stephanie's saying when she switched seats from radio to handy person.
Yeah. And then that way too, like we couldn't have other people come in and like take jobs for me, which and at that point, I don't think even at that point I anticipated. I know for sure at that point I did not anticipate what Autumn Hunter Design was going to eventually be, or what it's becoming.
Right? How could you?
No idea. Life changing. Mm-hmm. Absolutely life changing.
And so, give me some like marks along the timeline between then and where you are now. What are like some key moments?
So by that January, so October, so this is 2020. So October, I got business license, insurance, all of that stuff. Still working for the radio station. By January, I had put in my notice at the radio station. Hired an employee, a part-time employee. By March, I had a part-time and a full-time employee. And then I lost one of those employees, and then I stuck with just one for a while until 2022. Yeah, it was just me and Brett for the longest time. Brett is one of my oldest and dearest friends. Met him through radio. We worked together. I actually did video production while I was in college, and Brett helped me do video production stuff. And so when I opened up this business, he like shot me a message and was like, I'm moving back because of COVID. Like I need a job. And I was like, come on, let's go. So he was really instrumental in helping me kind of just grow, learn more, and be solid, feel solid in what we were doing. And then 2 years ago, so 2022, I hired my next full-time employee. That did not work out well at all. He was caught doing drugs, instead of working. So that was fun. And then I begged my best friend, who at the time was working for Henrico County Public Works, the school. He was a maintenance supervisor for a school. And I begged him to come work with me because I was like, I don't trust anyone. So then it was the three of us until last May. Nope, I take that back. I have had Kim. So Kim's been with me for a couple of years. Kim is my assistant. She's been with me for a couple of years, but not in the field. But she's been 2.5, probably almost close to 3 years. She's been on the team and really just helps me kind of keep my life together. This time last year, I hired 3 people. I still have 2 of those, and I've added 2 more since then. I don't math very well, but I think there's 8 of us or 9 of us now. I now have 2 assistants. They're sisters. One was my first assistant. She can't quit me. So her sister joined, and now they both help. And then a couple of guys in the crew, in the field, and then me running around like a crazy person.
What are some of the bigger projects you've done?
Bathrooms. We've done a lot of really cool bathrooms. We've done, what else has been really cool? I have a client that lives in Jackson Ward, and the husband is an author, and the wife is, she makes tapestries. And so we made them, I want to say 11 or 12 bookshelves to go. So they don't have furniture. They only use bookshelves because they have thousands upon thousands of books. And so they're all decorated with all the books. Some he's written, obviously, and then their collection, which is insane. And then we did like picture rails so that she could hang her tapestries. So just like working with their aesthetic and their style and their passions, like to give them their perfect house. Like no one else is going to want to live in a house with 11 bookshelves unless you're like a book crazy person, but it works perfect for them. Right now we are taking part of a garage and turning it into an extended pantry out of a kitchen. So, instead of walking out what would be your garage door, you walk into a pantry that's in your garage. So that's kind of a cool. They're putting a submarine window in it. So we're going to frame that out, and so you can look through a submarine window. We've done a lot of like random cool things that are, people are weird.
That's about as random as it gets. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't even think of. Sometimes I go back on like our Instagram or something over the last couple of years, and I'm like, oh my God, I totally forgot we did that. Mm-hmm. I did a bookshelf that was 20 plus feet tall, and 25 feet wide. It was the biggest built-in we've ever done. It had like inset lights. It was really cool. Yeah, we do a lot of really cool stuff.
What are some of the like lessons that you learned when you were starting this business, like when you were transitioning?
I learned all the lessons, every single lesson.
What are like some more esoteric ones?
Man, be careful when you trust people with your business. Like that has been a big one. I've made mistakes in hiring in the past, and or just mistakes with people that I've chosen to align my business with. I like to think that I am a good judge of character, but sometimes I'm too trusting.
Can you detail something without being specific, like about who it is, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, just working with people that, for example, we have a new rule now where we don't do flips for other people. We'll only do a flip if we do it. Because we have gotten burned on a couple of different occasions. And this wasn't just one particular client. It was a few different lessons that we learned. But one of the things we learned is our guys are good, and we're not going to half-ass anything. And not all flippers are like this. So I'm not throwing anyone under the bus, but people want it done fast. And there's that saying, fast, good, or cheap. Mm-hmm. What is that? You can only pick two. Mm-hmm. Like fast is not one of those options generally when you want things done properly, mm-hmm. or well, or passing future inspections. So we collectively as a team decided that we didn't want to care about the project more than other people. But that's a lesson to learn because there's a lot of money in flipping, you know? Mm-hmm. And when you have people in front of you, they're like, I'll give you this much money if you can get this job done. And it's like, bet. And then I walk in and I'm like, oh my God, like, no, like that's not going to be enough for that. Mm-hmm. Or just do it however, we don't care. And it's like, no, we want to do beautiful custom work for beautiful custom people, you know, not just cookie cutter. My whole, and I also have a separate moral dilemma with flipping anyways, that I have a hard time balancing out with making money, but also understanding that affordable housing is no longer like a thing. And I'm getting on a whole soapbox that has absolutely nothing to do with any of this, but I would much rather spend my time, energy, and effort making something beautiful for someone that I know is going to actually like it, instead of maybe they're going to buy this and maybe they'll like it. You know what I mean?
I do. I have another question, though, about something you said earlier, which is you said you don't do flips for other people. You only do them for yourself. Can you explain what that means?
I haven't bought a flip yet, but I would like to. But I would want to do it the proper way, fully permitted and not cutting corners, and then selling it to someone that needs the house and not, I don't know. I'd want to do it the right way, the way that would help me be able to sleep at night. Yes, I do like money because we have to pay bills and afford life and things like that. But I like to help people more. So if there's a way that I can give back in that capacity, I would like to. And I do think that there are good, honest, trustworthy contractors out there that will do a really good job. In fact, I went and looked at a job this week actually, and it was a flip. And I got the inspection report, and I was surprisingly shocked at how well it was put together and how little was on the inspection report. And that doesn't happen often. But
Are you going to take that one?
yeah, we have a handy dude maintenance plan. So, and she's renting it out. So we're going to put them on the maintenance plan to take care of small odds and ends and things that inevitably will come up in a rental property. But, yeah, I just think that there's a place for fixing rundown houses and not charging too much money for them in the return. And maybe I'll figure out a magical way to make that happen.
Yeah, maybe it's like a nonprofit or something like that.
Maybe it's a nonprofit.
So aside from the other thing that I know we're going to talk about, what do you see for the future of Autumn Hunter?
The plan right now is just more growth. I don't want to get too big. I like having a really close relationship with my guys. Like, we are like a family. Like, we joke around, we play around. I'm friends with their spouses and I know of their kids. And, like I don't want to get too big that people aren't people anymore. But I would like to eventually give this business to my kids. Is my long-term goal. My daughter's boyfriend works for me, and he's been with me almost a year. And eventually I would like to see them step up. We're working out some things right now where I'm being just more front facing and not so much in the field, which sucks a little bit because that's like my favorite part. But I've been dealing with healing my shoulder surgery for way too long. And I'm also so busy just doing estimates and like the business stuff that it's hard for me to justify like taking time out of that to like go do the fun stuff. But eventually I'd like to find balance. That would be super. Maybe just hire somebody to do what I do, and I'll just go out and work and just collect a paycheck. That'd be nice. I don't know. Because if you had asked me 4 years ago what I thought this was going to be, I wouldn't have told you this. It would have been like me and another person. Like, that was not. So I don't know. And I kind of like leaving it open-ended because you never know what's going to happen. I have ideas. I would love to give away a house. Like, I have like big ideas, and I think it's because I come from radio, and they're like, the bigger idea, the better. We can get it sponsored. But like, I would love to do something to like to give back to the community, or like where I work with a bunch of other companies that do what I do, and we find like a shitty old house and buy it for really cheap and fix it up and like give it to someone that like needs a freaking house. I don't know. The housing market is a crisis. I meant to say the housing crisis, but I don't know where I was going to go.
You said the housing market is a crisis.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Because it is. And I see a lot of people that are just trying to stay in their homes because they can't go anywhere else, or stay in their rentals or whatever. And so if I can help with that at all, I want to. I don't know.
And so talk to us a little bit, because I know you've been teaching some classes. Like, what's going on with that?
So it's so fun. It's so, I have always wanted to like teach high school. I love once my kids became high school age, it was so fun to me. And I was like, oh, this would be so fun. But then I don't think I want to be with kids all day long every day. So when...
Yeah, 2's a lot different than 20.
Right. But this teaching classes to people that have never touched tools has been the most rewarding thing I have done in a very long time. And I've done a lot of really cool stuff. But this... So I teach classes, 101 classes, like electric 101 or drywall 101, plumbing 101. And so when we're teaching these classes, it's not like how to replumb your whole house, because you should probably get an adult for like a lot of the things. But being able to show someone like how to change a light fixture, and then they do it and they get so excited, and then we all clap for them. And it is such a fulfilling... Because once you empower someone or teach someone how to do that, they're never going to forget how to do that. They're always going to know how to change out a light now. And that to me is so cool. Mm-hmm. Because if somebody hadn't shown me, I wouldn't know how to do it. And I had a friend the other day, she asked on Facebook, she was going to change like a light switch or something. She's like, I keep shocking myself. And I'm like, turn the breaker off, take a picture of it, go buy the identical thing, and then hook it up just exactly the same. And she's like, I feel like such an idiot. And I'm like, you're not an idiot. It's just something that you don't do. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to do probably what she does for a living. I don't even know what she does for a living, but it's just because you don't do it. So my love behind these classes is once you touch the tools and kind of get that familiarity with it, it doesn't feel as scary. And I think... in a way, it not only empowers people, but it helps them feel more comfortable, more adult, more like, I can take care of this by myself. I don't need no man, you know, like, and I think that's really cool. I eventually want to do classes where I teach at Lowe's and Home Depot and do like aisle by aisle. Like, this is what this aisle is for, because being a woman, I understand how it is to go into a Lowe's or a Home Depot and people look at you like you absolutely have no idea what you're doing. And so having just that little bit of confidence and being like, I know what aisle I'm going to go to. Thank you, sir. Like, I think is so powerful. Because I still get intimidated going to like the Lowe's that's not my Lowe's.
Do the workers there like see you and be like, can I help you, little lady? Is it that kind of thing?
Yes.
Because just to be clear, when a man goes into Lowe's or Home Depot, you can't find someone to help you.
No.
It's impossible.
It is impossible. And sometimes it is impossible to find anyone to help you anyway. But no, especially when I go into like the stores that I don't go, that aren't my regular stores, I have like my regular Lowe's, like my Lowe's guys.
Of course.
But when I go into other stores
Even
and I'm
still
like,
today?
Yeah, when I'm getting like picking up like, 3/4 inch plywood sheets by myself. Can I help you with that? No, I'm good. Mm-hmm. Thanks though. But it took me time. Even still, it took me time to have the confidence to be like, I'm okay. And after my shoulder surgery and I had to go back in there and be like, can I have help now? Like, so,
yeah.
I'm like, y'all just forget that this ever happened. Mm-hmm. But no, just because I think that that's important. And a lot of women tell me the same thing, that they walk in there and it's either like no one helps them, or they try and explain to them what it is that they think that they need without actually listening to what it is they're actually saying. And I find that I have that problem also.
Yeah.
So I thought that might be a cool thing. And I've mentioned it to some of my students. I'm like, how would you feel about that? And they're like, I think that's a good idea. So no one steal that idea. It's trademarked.
No, I think it's cool. And I remember I directed some shows over at Maggie Walker, and, they would do set builds on the weekends, and I was a brand new director, so I would show up to the set builds, and I was also a little bit of control freak. I wanted things to be exactly the way that I saw it in my head. But I was shocked because I walked in and I would see these like freshmen and sophomores in high school with circular saws and stuff like that. And I was like, is going on here? This is crazy. And it's basically that same concept. There was a bunch of dads and moms there, and like the main guy who was like the technical director of the whole school was very savvy, Henry Gizzy. Shout out to Henry, just saw him the other day. And so they would teach the kids how to use it properly. And of course, Maggie Walker, like everyone there is a freaking genius, so you know that there's going to be no horseplay. So it's a little bit different. You wouldn't do that
Probably.
at like my high school at Atlee. You would not do that at Atlee
No.
unless you signed up for shop class.
Yeah. I did take shop.
So did I.
Atlee.
Who was your teacher? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
remember
I was
either.
obviously the only girl in the whole class. I made a CD rack.
I remember he was a football coach.
Yes. Trevette? Is that it?
You're in a yeah.
Trevor?
No.
Something along those lines.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's really terrific, and just giving back is enough, but ultimately, when you give back, it circles back around to you. So, for whatever reason you're doing it to give back, this is for anyone listening. That's fine. Like if you're giving back for the right reason, amazing. If you're giving back because you know it's going to come back to you, okay, fine.
That works too.
That's fine. Just keep giving back.
As long as you're giving back. And it has, obviously there's some people that have taken my classes and they're like, hey, can I pay you to just come take care of this? And I'm like, of course. I have no problems with that. But I think.
But also like your happiness.
Yeah.
Like it will affect that. And that's worth it too.
It does, because it's something that's fulfilling. Like if I'm not in the field every day, seeing projects get done, I don't get that fulfilling. Like when I click a button that says a job is done and send an invoice, it's not the same as it was when I was in the field. So having this is like a feel good, and it's like, and it's so exciting and everyone's so nice. And I guess you don't generally sign up to take classes for something that you're not gonna participate in or be involved in or want to be a participant in. But everyone is so nice and so like kind, and it's been a really good time teaching. So I definitely am gonna be doing that more. And I'll update things on socials when schedules come out and all that stuff.
Well, last question. What is your advice to aspiring artists? And you can kind of speak to whether you're young or whether you're like in your mid-20s or early 30s. Like, what is your advice to someone who maybe has had it as a hobby and they're interested in pursuing it full-time as a profession?
It's never too late. It's never too late. I thought 30, whatever. How old was I? How old am I? I was 38 when I started the business. That sounds about right. 37 maybe. Never too late. I've changed careers multiple times in my life. And it's never too late to like truly follow like your passion or your dream, and then surround yourself with other people that believe in you. And it's not hard. If you're excited about your passions and your dreams, you're going to excite the people around you about your passions and your dreams, and they're going to support you. And that's one of the things I love about like all of our little networking groups and all of the friends and stuff I've made through that is like, it's like that warm hug of support. Like no matter what I do, I have people in my corner. So yeah, have a good support system, and it's never too late. Like, what's stopping you? Why not?
My favorite quote from the show 30 Rock, it's never too late for now.
True. It's never too late for now.
Do you know that reference?
I do. I know 30 Rock.
It's the song that Judd Freelander and Pete, they like do a song. It's never too late for now. It's very random. That's a terrible way to end the pod. But where can people find you?
I am on Instagram and Facebook, Autumn Hunter Design. I am on TikTok, although that's more like personal. Like if you want to hear like stupid stories about dumb stuff, that's nothing to do with work at all. And dogs, there's dogs on there. Then I have a TikTok. It's also Autumn Hunter, but, or autumnhunterdesign.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, Steffanie Atkins, a.k.a. Autumn Hunter. Do not call her Autumn. That is not her name.
This is not my name.
Though you would not be the first person to make that mistake.
No. Everyone calls me Autumn. It's okay. I'll answer to it.
Hey, yeah, because that means they're hiring you to do something.
Exactly.
Steffanie, thanks so much.
Thanks, Matt.